On my way into work today, I was thinking of something, like I do, like every day, and it's slightly disturbing. And I apologize if my GPS decides it wants to say something in the middle of this, but I am on my way into work. But what I was thinking about is kind of unnerving and disturbing. The idea of minimum wage. What comes to mind when you say minimum wage? It's the lowest that somebody can pay you within legal limits. I would think that as an employer, you would want your employees to be able to live a life, be able to take care of themselves. With that thought process in mind, I was thinking, okay, what is the average rate for a one bedroom, for one person, rental in the United States? Per month, that is $825. And there are plenty of financial advisors out there that will tell you, and I could pick one and reference it, but be smarter. Check it yourself. Anyway, they say that your rent should be no more than 30% of your income to be able to live a properly sustained life. And obviously other bills would accrue, but 30% is a good start. So I thought, okay, let me look at what Pennsylvania's one bedroom rental is compared to the national average. The housing in Pennsylvania is about 85% of the national average. So that brings our rent down to about $700 in Pennsylvania per month. So that would mean that the average one household renting an apartment in Pennsylvania would have to make a minimum of $2,100 a year. Or, I'm sorry, $2,100 a month. So that way they could pay their rent every month and still have money to pay for food, electricity, water if they need to, heat, all of the things that you need, food, all the things you need to survive. The idea that if you were to figure this out, I took the $2,100, I times it by 12 because there's 12 months in a year, and I divided it by 52 because 52 weeks. Divided that number by 40. So the average person works 40 hours. It's actually probably less now, but 40 hours. It came up to about $12.20, something like that. And I said, wow, that's a pretty big difference. Because Pennsylvania's minimum rate or minimum pay is $7.25. That's almost a $5 an hour difference. $5 an hour. That's huge. That's almost double what these people are making. So the idea that the state is willing to set the bar so low that people are barely able to even pay their rent. So people that are trying to get jobs where, they need to survive. Let's say they now, because they go to apply somewhere and the people are paying $7.25 an hour. For example, servers. There are a lot of servers, that have families, and if they're just starting or trying to learn, or even working in a slow business, that business is only going to pay them $7.25 an hour in Pennsylvania if they make under minimum. I mean, if you're good and you're in a busy restaurant, you should be making way more than that. But the idea that you have people that are making this rate, and yes, they do exist, how can I survive? And only that, because of the government's lockdown on the medical requirements. So, the companies now have to, they have to offer medical insurance they don't have to pay for it. I mean, let me backtrack. They don't have to pay for it, but they have to offer it. Because, and for, I think there's a minimum hour requirement for that. But because of that, a lot of companies are not hiring people full-time. They're hiring people part-time, working 20 hours a week, or just below full-times. So just below minimum pay or minimum hours, so that way they can make it, or just below maximum hours for part-time, so that way they can make it, so that way the employees don't get medical benefits. So in my mind, you have companies going against the guy trying to make a living by making companies do lower hours because they don't want to pay for or offer insurance, and you have the minimum rate. So think of it this way: you got one guy, not a family, got to pay for his rent. He's got to pay. Let's say he's got to pay $750 a month for his one-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment. Well, not studio, but you know what I mean. Efficiency. $700 a month. That guy is making $7.25 an hour. Okay? He is only going to get 20 hours a week at one job. So he's working there, he's getting 20 hours a week, he knows he can't make it, so he starts looking for another job. And he tells the other job, well, okay, these are my hours for this job, I can work for you for these hours. Well, that's causing limited time. So now the other employee or employer is saying, well, I want you to be flexible because I want to schedule you when I need you. Well, the guy's now like, okay, well, let me go back to my first employer. So he goes back to his first employer and says, hey, so I want to get the second job so I can make enough money to pay my rent. And they said they can only offer me hours on these times. Will you be able to work with me on that? Now, in my mind, I would think that the employer would go, well, I don't know, if you're looking for another job, maybe it's not a good fit for us, whatever. Or they might say, something along the lines of, hey, look, we can work with you, but we can't give you those hours.
I
want to turn.
Keep left at the fork, then use the right 2 lanes to take the US 1 North ramp.
I'm going USA 1. So think about this. I mean, because a lot of us, I struggled a long time for money. I've been blessed. Where's my focus off?
Use the right 2 lanes to take the US 1 North ramp, then merge onto US 1 North.
So I've been blessed with a great job. I love doing what I do. I work for a great company, and I make okay money. I'm not rich by no means, and I still live in an apartment, which sucks. But hopefully that's going to be changing soon. But I struggled at some point, and I know the struggle, and I fought tooth and nail for good rates. But even at like $10 an hour, you're not going to make that 30% of your rent. That's why kids are staying home longer at home. You know, it's not because they're lazy. I'm sure there are a lot of really good people out there that, you know, can't find good paying jobs just enough to pay their rent, to find a place to rent. You know, and I live closer to Philadelphia. Can you imagine? I mean, one bedroom apartments near Philadelphia are going for $1,200 a month. You know, you would need to make, you know, over $3,000 a month to be, you know, be in a good situation. This guy's gonna come blast past me here. Thank you. I was trying to get over. Yes, this is a big concern for me because I know too many people who are struggling. I work in the city. I see a lot of people that are struggling. You know, single moms trying to raise a couple kids, and they're living in, you know, a one bedroom apartment because that's all they can afford, and they're struggling. And, you know, I also see people out there that are, you know, driving in brand new Mercedes and Lexus and stuff like that, but they're paying for their food with food stamps. Was that because they, you know, decided they want to put all their money into a Lexus? Was it because they, you know, got to that point where they were making really good money and they could afford a Lexus, but then they lost their job? Was the car given to them? I don't know. But in my mind, if I'm at that point to where I'm never going to recover financially, at least I don't see it recovering, and I own something that could, you know, financially get me, you know, a few years of money.
Turn right onto West Springfield Road.
If I could get, let's say you have a brand new Lexus that you have. You go, you know, it's owned, you own it, and
continue on West Springfield
you have two kids.
For 3 miles.
You live in a city, but you have no money to pay your bills, and you are making under a certain amount of money, and you need to get food stamps and such. In my mind, I would find somebody that wants to buy my car, reasonably priced, obviously. Maybe $20,000, I don't know, maybe $30,000. Let's say I can find somebody to buy it for $20,000. I can sock that money away. I sell the car, I buy a cheap, you know, kicker, you know, something to get me around, or even just take city transportation, even though I wouldn't want to take city transportation, personally. I mean, if I had to, I had to. I don't know. I'm not in their shoes. I don't know what's going on. And I can only speak for what I would have to do in that situation. I mean, there are times where times got tight, where, you know, I had a computer that I was building that, you know, was, you know, $1,000, where I said, you know what, maybe it's time for me to sell the computer. Give me $1,000. It'll get me through a month, you know, and then I just have to restart. And I recently took care of some bills financially, and I there was an opportunity for me to get a personal loan, and the company offered me the ability to use my car as collateral. And in the past, I was like, I wouldn't want to do that. It's not worth it to me to put my mode of transportation or my home or anything like that on a potential, you know, God forbid something happens, I'm going to lose my car. However, what thought process went through my mind is, by doing this, I got a reasonable loan. Interest rate's a little high, but that's, you know, whatever, bad credit, you know, whatever. And I was able to pay off all my credit cards, pay down all my loans, and consolidate into one with lower interest rate. It was still high, but it was lower. So I pay one payment each month, and I pay a large amount. It's not like I pay the minimum. I pay almost double, if not triple. And it's paying off quickly. and it's only one bill, and my credit is climbing dramatically from that. And it was a good choice. I thought it was a good choice. But I don't know, I kind of got off topic, but the point is that I think minimum wage should be much higher. I think what should happen is when the government decides what they're going to do, or what the state is trying to do for minimum wage, they should be looking at what does it cost a single person to live in our state, and evaluate it that way. There's going to be a lot of ruckus from businesses and stuff. And maybe you come to a reasonable conclusion. Okay, maybe not make it 30% of the income for a rent. But I really do believe that they should be looking at what it costs a single person to live in their state, and base the minimum wage around that, or minimum wage around that. And if that person isn't getting full-time work, well, there's got to be give and take. I think the pressure from the government to say, you have to offer your company, your employees, insurance if they're full-time. Well, that's kind of like you're forcing their hands. Companies also should know that even if you are incapable of offering your employees medical benefits, at least you can direct them to the healthcare marketplace. Because one of the things I found is important, let's say I own a small business and I have 3 employees. Those 3 employees work full-time, if not overtime. I cannot afford to talk to a insurance broker and make arrangements with them to get my employees' lower rate and all this other stuff. But I also can't afford the fine. By getting an arrangement with the healthcare marketplace, you are offering your employees medical benefits, and you are giving them a chance to have healthcare. And because you don't offer them medical benefits, they are eligible, I believe they're automatically eligible for medical benefits. Now, obviously, what rate they get is based on their income, But these are all things that, I think about, obviously stupid ideas, but, and I've been rambling for, looks like 18 minutes. But, you sit in the car, you drive. Most days I'm driving an hour to work. You start thinking about stuff. You start pondering, problems that people have, and especially when you see things. Like, there are people that they work in one place, and they live in one place, and that's where they exist. Sometimes they'll go out to dinner at a nice restaurant. Maybe they'll go out to have fun with their friends. But that's all they exist. They don't see everything. I'm walking into people's homes. I'm talking to people on a daily basis. I love it. It's part of what I am and who I am. The idea that I am shaking hands with Joe, who is a maintenance guy who's barely making ends meet for a company that, rents properties, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, he works and lives in Philadelphia, and he's not making anywhere near what he needs to make an hour to cover his rent for his 3-bedroom apartment, because he's got 2 kids. What is that showing for that rental company? It's scary. Think about it. You have a company that rents homes, rents houses, and your employees don't make enough to pay for their rent. How? I think the other thing to think about in regards to that, let's say that place has 20 apartments. Let's say 20 apartments. Let's say they charge, $1,200 a month to live in those apartments for one bedroom. Maybe $1,500 for a two bedroom, whatever the case may be. You have, let's say, 4 maintenance guys. Okay? 4 maintenance guys, rotating shifts, 20 apartments, 2,000. You're making, let's say you're making,
In 1,000 feet, slight right onto North Clifton Avenue.
$24,000 a month. You got to maintain the property. You got to put money away. How much do you pay those employees? Those 4 maintenance guys who pretty much fix everything for you to make sure your property is running good. And it's only 20 apartments. You may not even need 4, but 2 guys. But even then, like, what do you pay them? Hell, if you only got 1 guy, it's scary. It makes me slightly sick to my stomach.
Slight right onto North Clifton Avenue.
Anyway, I'm gonna stop here because I'm getting a little bit depressed from this. But think about it.
In 500 feet, turn left onto Marion Avenue.
If you have
Take the
any
next left onto Marion
ideas,
Avenue, then
comment
turn right
down
onto
below
North Clifton Avenue.
in my little comment thingy there. And I'd like to hear from you guys, your friends, your family. Do you struggle with this stuff? I would like to know. I mean, I can't say I can help anything, but maybe there's a way for us to reach out to our governor
Take the next right onto North Clifton
senators
Avenue.
and trying to get our minimum wage raised. Maybe we start a petition. We gotta move. Anyway, thank you. Bye.
Continue on